studio audience. People have come from far and wide today, and I'm going to get stuck into who exactly they are very shortly. Some tremendous travellers. But Prince Harry, back in the news again, his lawyers have claimed that the Duke requested private police protection after receiving death threats from Al-Qaeda. Now, Harry lost his automatic rights to taxpayer-funded security when he stood down from royal duties in 2020. A committee subsequently decided that he should receive a different degree of protection, a decision which, of course, Prince Harry is currently appealing. His lawyers told the court that Al-Qaeda called for Harry to, quote, be murdered, and published a document that said his assassination would please the Muslim community. So, should he now receive taxpayer-funded security when he's in the UK? I'd like to go to a lovely member of our audience first on this, please. It's Marinella, I believe.
Yes.
Where have you come from tonight, Marinella?
I came from Market Deeping near Peterborough.
Oh, good effort, that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Initially from Romania. 21 years ago, I came to UK legally.
Amazing. Just keep that microphone close to my
sorry.
That's all right, that's great. So what was your point there on Prince Harry then, please?
I want to say, firstly, I'm a royalist. I'm all for the royal family, God bless them. I want them all good and safe, including Harry. But my question is, what's happening when he's elsewhere else? Anywhere else in the world. I mean, Al-Qaeda is notorious for operating in the safest places, we thought. So they operate everywhere. So what's happening to him when he's not in UK?
It's a good point. I mean, Al-Qaeda is very much, unfortunately, a global institution, isn't it, really? So I suppose it's not just here in Britain that he would need that security. It's a good point. Well, I'll bring you in now, Sarah Louise, if that's all right. Yeah. So the lady's point there, and also just the general topic. What do you think about Harry needing protection because of Al-Qaeda?
Well, I think this is just Prince Harry being the entitled prince once again. He's always bleating about something or other, complaining that he's got the hardest lot in life, hasn't he? Here he is. He's back in the UK, or has been back in the UK, in the latest stage of his legal fight with the Home Office over having state-funded, taxpayer-funded personal security for him and his wife, Meghan Markle, and their two children, Lily and Prince Archie, when they come to the UK. Now, the Home Office said that when they stepped back from royal duties, when they left the royal family, as working members of the royal family, shall I say, back in 2020, that meant they were no longer eligible to have taxpayer-funded security. It was the same when Princess Diana, Prince Harry's mother, was no longer an HRH. She was stripped of that, so it's the same again. He's appealing against this, and he's requesting to have this protection in place when he comes back. Now, by that, he wants to be able to have British police, obviously, with guns, because he says his life's at threat. But what I will say is, Prince Harry, did you think about that when you boasted in your autobiography spare, about killing Al-Qaeda members while fighting as a soldier in Afghanistan? No, I mean, that meant that he fought alongside
that's what led to the mess. That's what led to what is essentially a fatwa, isn't it?
Exactly. So there you are. And it also hasn't stopped him going into what you could argue is a war zone when he went to Ukraine last week. So, you have to wonder, does he pick his battles wisely? Does he actually think about these things before he goes ahead?
Christo?
I think that as a couple, they're awful. I really do. I really do. I think they're awful.
Say what you think. Hold back.
I think that they have capitalised on being quite talentless. I think that for them to, coming from me, that's saying something.
Agreed.
And I think that for them to, all right, that wasn't that funny. But also, I think that for them to have doing these racism accusations and all of this when our late Queen and Prince Philip were seriously ill, I think is absolutely dreadful. But I have some sympathy for this position because he will always be the son of the king. He will always have served the country. And I'm sorry, in the UK, he can't have armed protection because of the fact that in a way he can pay for people with guns. Do we really want a situation as annoying, as irritating, as ridiculous their TV shows and bleating on actually are, do we really want a situation where we allow a Muslim terror group, Al-Qaeda, to get such a win in hurting him? No one would want that. no one would want to give that propaganda benefit and win to Al Qaeda. So I have sympathy for that position.
With that in mind, now, shall we just take a straw poll? So by virtue of shouting at me, please, who thinks that Harry should get taxpayer-funded protection because of the threat of Al Qaeda?
Yes.
Yes. OK. Who thinks he shouldn't?
Me.
That's because 60-40 in favour of shouldn't, I think.
No,
Barry.
70-30.
Okay. Go on, Barry. Because I suppose one of the points would be, whilst it's awful, and no doubt there is clearly a threat from Al Qaeda, has he not brought it on himself a bit?
Look, he's a young man who fought for this country, and I respect him for that. He's a young man who, having seen some of his friends disfigured and become limbless, set up his charity, and I respect him for that. He went to Ukraine not to flaunt himself in a war zone, but actually to visit some of the veterans of that war who had been injured and lost limbs as well, and I respect him for that. Of course he should have taxpayer-funded protection in this country because he is, as Christo says, the son of our head of state, the son of our king. And if there's any way to attack this country, it is through the son of our monarch. It seems blindingly obvious to me that the original Home Office decision to take away protection from him was quite simply wrong. You don't ask to be born into the royal family. It's something you have no control over. Okay. It just happens to you. Okay, it's got huge pluses and we might all be envious of those, but it has got quite a few negatives as well, and we owe him protection.
OK, all right. Yes, Adam, sorry, and then we'll get the microphone to this chap here on the...
Let's be clear, no one here or in the UK wants to see any harm come to Harry. At the end of the day, what Barry said there with respecting him for all those points, I used to. And then he ripped the royal family apart, he embarrassed the UK, and he sold his soul for Netflix millions, tens of millions of pounds.
Called his own brother.
Right, so at the end of the day, this couple, him and Meghan, who I cannot bear, she is so false, are worth tens of millions of pounds, if not hundreds of millions of pounds. They can pay for their own security when they're over here.
They can't. Sorry, they're not allowed to have armed guards protecting them. That's the issue. The issue...
Well, then... We should bill them, we should invoice them for that security, Barry. That can be done.
OK.
They've been in Nigeria, they've been in Colombia. Meghan was out and about in New York last week, making sure she was seen, making sure the paparazzi got pictures of her.
And they
she
do not...
loves the limelight.
And you're right, they don't test the temperature of what people think. I mean, they've got absolutely no self-awareness whatsoever. I agree with all of that. I agree with it all. However, they need to be able to have armed protection in the UK.
Provide it an invoice.
Maybe that's a compromise.
Provide an invoice.
I have to move on, I'm afraid, which means, sorry, sir, I can't come to you this time, I'm afraid. I'm getting shouted at. And rightly so, I'm a nightmare to work with.